up, y'all? This is China here, the Indie as Fuck podcast. And you know what's cool as fuck? We have my guy, Ras Ceylon, all the way from the Bay.
That's right.
Coming to OC here at the LRG headquarters, here for an interview. I'm so excited. Hey.
What's up? What's up? Yeah, the drive is cool, you know what I mean? It's that 5 highway, just make it happen in 6 hours, you know what I mean? Not too bad. Just rolling.
So would you ever consider or want to move out close to this way? Because I know your mom is out here. Is the rest of your family out here?
I was born and raised in Orange County, you know? And then I moved to the Bay, to Oakland when I was 18, like right after high school.
Okay.
So I've been going back and forth ever since for over 25 years now, you know what I mean? So,
right.
Yeah. You know, a lot of my family's out here still. Mom's is out here, a lot of my old school crew and all that. But I you know, Oakland and the Bay is home for me, you know, even though I grew up out here. I've actually now lived up there longer, and it just feels like home. I love coming down here and seeing my folks and doing business, but it's home up there.
I love Oakland.
Yeah.
It definitely has like a very special vibe and a lot of culture too.
For sure, no doubt. A lot of rich history. And, you know.
Most definitely. So I know that you started rapping and getting and tapping into the music around 16 and 17. So you technically started music when you were in the OC and then went to the Bay and started.
That's right. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, in fact, right here in Santa Ana, there's a spot called Coos Cafe back in the day, right?
Okay.
And like it was kind of like our Orange County version of Project Blow.
Sick.
The Good Life Cafe, where basically all the underground hip hop heads would come together from OC surrounding areas and basically be there for open mics and battles and b-boys, graffiti art, like all elements of hip hop culture.
Okay.
And I know you had, you know, Aloe Black on the show recently. I mean, he was there back in the day. Exile, he had a group with Exile, Eminon, you know, Mike. June 22, shout out X is the Weapon, you know what I mean? Creative director, LRG was my original producer back then, you know, out in Santa Ana. So.
He told me like stories where he's like, you know, you were always like the younger one in the crew. So he was like, it's funny that like he was telling me how he met you. You approached him to be a part of the crew. So he's like, it's just funny to see like where Ross has grown since this whole situation.
Yeah, it's deep because like, I don't know if I pushed him to be part of the crew. It was more like I made a demo tape because I wanted some of his beats. I didn't really have like an official producer or nothing, but I do a lot of house parties. I had a DJ crew back then called Thundercuts. This is like we started in junior high and went into high school, and so we do house parties, open mics, and I was always battle rapping. You know what I mean? Back then, that's what the culture was about: freestyling and battling. And but I never really recorded anything original with original beats. And so I knew that I heard the music that they were doing at Coos with him, that he was producing for Zaire Black and Universal Translators and just that whole crew. And I was like, man, his beats were slapping. So I was like, you know, one day we talked about it. I was like, yeah. So I threw together a little demo, freestyling over some instrumentals with the actual vinyl, you know what I mean, with my crew. And from there, we just started making music on a 4-track, you know?
Sick. And you just never stopped. So I was just doing all my research and I went back to your first YouTube video that you have. Do you know what video that is?
Oh, man. Is it the East Bay Politics one?
It is. And my favorite line from that is, wait, how's it go? Okay. It says, standing on a corner like a nigga was hoeing. That was
yeah, that's my first thing. That was that line.
It was so funny when I heard that. So I was like, I have to mention that in the interview. But just seeing like your growth since then, you know, that came out, that was 18 years ago.
Yeah, 2006, I believe.
Yeah, it was like 18 years ago. Yeah, I was like,
it's pretty grimy. That was when YouTube first started, I think.
Which made me feel like, oh my God, YouTube has been around. Wait, has YouTube been around for like, how 20 years?
I'm gonna start feeling old. You start asking me how long things been around. It's been around for a minute. And you know, one time, you know, I'm an educator as well. And recently I had a student of mine in junior high, it's like a 7th grader, and I was like, hey, I spent the whole weekend just watching you on YouTube. And I was like, yo. And I didn't feel too bad because, you know, the music's positive, the content is clean for the most part, you know what I mean? But I thought that was kind of funny. There's a lot out there.
So you work with kids. I substitute teach on the side. Oh, nice. That's like something that I do.
Yeah.
So you also teach kids.
Yeah, for 25 years I've been in education.
Oh my goodness.
In different capacities. Everything from like I started as like after school programs, doing like basketball coaching, and actually teaching hip hop workshops and stuff like that. And then that's really, it led me to becoming a classroom teacher. I was a history teacher for many years in high school, and actually became a principal for a year at an elementary school in East Oakland, which was fun, but it was a little bit too much for me. So I'm still a school administrator as well. So that's what I do.
See, a man of many hats, very multifaceted, Renaissance man. But one of the things that I really love about you is just what you do for the community and what you've done for Sri Lanka. I don't know why it's so hard for me to want to pronounce Sri Lanka. Okay.
So people put an SH on it too, so you can say it like that.
Yeah, just knowing, because I know you went out there for the first time in 2012. Mm-hmm. And you went to kind of help with just kind of some of the things that were going on after the war and just being like an advocate to help out. I just can't believe the war was 27 years long.
Yeah. And a lot of people don't know about it,
Yeah. Could you give me some insight on
that? For sure,
it?
definitely. And what you'll see if you look from Africa, Asia, Latin America, a lot of the civil wars or ethnic conflicts that you see in place, a lot of that takes place after the colonial era, right? Mm-hmm. So like when European colonized basically the globe from 1500s all the way to to the 1900s. During that time, a lot of divisions were created, you know what I mean? Where they would take minority groups and put them in power. And then when the independence came, now the majority groups wants to assert their dominance, you know? So it's like a post-colonial struggle, which is what happened in Sri Lanka that caused the civil war, And so that war was on from 83 to 2009, as you mentioned, 27 years. So my whole life growing up in Cali, I would come visit Sri Lanka, but I would see the war as a child, you know what I mean? So I've seen curfews in the streets, bomb scares, military
so you've been out there. Okay, so when you went back into...
So that was my first time living there.
Gotcha. Yes. So you've been back and forth during the wartime.
Yeah, my whole life.
Oh, wow. Yeah, definitely. So how did that affect some of the people living out there, your family specifically?
Yeah, I mean, I oftentimes think about if my parents hadn't immigrated, you know what I mean, when they did in the 70s to LA, I don't know what would have happened, where me and my sister would have ended up in terms of would we have been a part of the war, you know what I mean, directly? I don't know, it's pretty deep. It's been a lot happening since then. But yeah, so 2012, I moved out there to work for an NGO or non-governmental organization. And what ended up happening is there was a lot of people that were coming back to the island to help out now that the war had been over. Mm-hmm. And a lot of folks started recognizing me because of my music, you know what I mean? And I was I was not expecting that.
Yeah.
I put out an album or a mixtape right before I left because I was let me get this music out of the way. So I'm about to go do this other work. Next thing I know, I'm going out there. I'm on TV, radio.
Well, you're the first Sri Lankan rapper of the West since 1999. I mean, they better recognize.
Thank you for saying that. I appreciate that, Tana. And the thing for me was I didn't know that until I went there. It wasn't until I was there where people from there were telling me yo, we consider that tape that we were talking about earlier, that first lesson that I did, produced by June 22, in 99, they consider that the first rap album outside of the island.
That is
I didn't know that
interesting. And then you going out there and everything just aligning and you kind of being pushed as an artist and making that song. Is it called
Sri Lanka?
Sri Lanka.
Yeah.
Yes, which I ended up going through your YouTubes and actually finding you doing a live performance of that. And everyone was just so into the song because I don't know if you were premiering it or was it, I don't know if you know what video I'm talking about.
I think I know what you're talking about.
But people loved it though.
It was the youth. It was youngsters.
Yeah, people were just clapping.
It was a peace anthem,
Yeah.
And that clip you're talking about, that was at a conference called the Future Leaders Conference. It took place in Jaffna, which was where the rebel army, the Tamil Tigers, where they had their stronghold. But this conference took young people from all over the island, the prefects, so the top students in high schools, and brought them together for a week-long reconciliation workshops and things. And so I was a performer at the end, and at the beginning of the conference, these kids, some of them didn't want to talk to each other. They were no, this person, messed with my family, that's my enemy, blah, blah, blah. And in Sri Lanka, you have Muslims, you have Hindus, you have Buddhists, you have Christians, very diverse, you know what I mean? And by the end of the conference, the kids were all together dancing and just having a good time, and Sri Lanka became kind of part of the anthem.
Unity.
Yeah, and it gave me a lot of hope, but then obviously we know what happened after that.
So what was the process of that? How did you know that, the government was after
Yeah, well, I mean, to be honest, there's been different things even before that. Like, there's always something, you know what I mean? Yeah. Because when it comes with the territory, if you're gonna speak truth to power, you better be ready for power to try to be reactionary. You know what I mean? Yeah. So it happened where is when I came back to America in 2013. I had my friend Yasmin, who's doing a lot of my music business work out there, told me, she was like, basically got a letter or a letter, and showed me the letter from the government saying that, or from the radio station saying that, due to the political climate at the time, they have to take the song off of regular rotation. And at the time, it was like a requested song heavily on commercial radio. And so that happened first. First, we got the information from the radio stations, but then we shot a major video for it. It was like, like Bollywood budget, like big video for it. That team ended up getting raided by some non-uniform governmental people that basically came in, took the footage, and shut it down. And later on, they had a meeting with them, with the Ministry of Culture or whatever it was, and they basically said that, like, if they wanted to continue to be filmmakers in Sri Lanka, then they can't work with me anymore, And so all of it was crazy. It was just going on. And I remember telling people about it, and people were like, oh, yeah, that's crazy. But sometimes they don't believe you. Yeah. You might think you're exaggerating, conspiracy theories, whatever. But then one day I was Google searching, trying to find my lyrics to Sri Lanka, and then I find this book published by the Oxford University Press where it has a whole chapter talking about what happened.
What?
So that made me feel like at least someone's paying attention, And so now we have the documentary film we're working on that kind of covers some of this history as well.
Talk about that documentary a little bit. So you have been going back and forth. Are they producing the documentary? Someone in Sri Lanka?
Yeah, I have a team out there that's putting it together. And so from 2013, after getting banned by the government, with my music getting banned, it wasn't really safe for me to go back. If one thing about Sri Lanka, if you look it up, there's like free speech, journalists, like safety for journalists has been a thing. They had something called the white van technique, where basically if you speak against the government or anything like that, which, by the way, it was a peace anthem. It wasn't an anti-government song, but it's been known where the white van pulls up and you're never seen again. You know what I mean? So, it was risky. So, like, I didn't want to go back there with that government in place. But thankfully, in 2022, there were major protests in Sri Lanka because the economy was being run into the ground, and essentially the government, the regime that had banned my music, they got kicked out of power. Okay. And so once they got kicked out of power with the protests, and they were playing the song of the protests, which was kind of cool. But once that happened, then it was like, all right, now it's safe for me to go back. It's safe for my family if I'm there or whatever. So this past January, I went back and did a big concert out there, which was fun, and filmed most of the documentary.
Let me find out you a celebrity out there.
Yeah, out there, low key. It's love, though. People always cool, man. One lung in love, I would say.
That's awesome. So, like I said, really admire your community work and what you've done, the peace anthem, but taking that peace all the way across the country to Jamaica and working with like some amazing artists, Sizzla, Anthony B. Like, just talk about the Jamaican culture and how you just relate so much to it.
Yeah, good thanks. So one of the big things that's important is actually in Santa Ana and in OC, when I met my crew, Youth Internationals, a lot of them were Rastafarian, and many of them had been gang impacted, before, and found Rasta as like a way to be more of a positive lifestyle. Yeah. So, and with infusing hip hop with it too. So my whole crew, all through the 90s, when we were making music, we were listening to our stuff. The only other music we're listening to, we weren't listening to a lot of rap, maybe a little Wu-Tang or whatever. But besides for that, we were bumping Sizzla, Anthony B, Capleton, you know what I mean? And then we were going to Naya Bingi's with Ross Michael in South Central LA, and we had Ice Soldier, it was a reggae band we worked with. So there was always heavy reggae culture and Rasta culture that I was around, And then my first time in Jamaica, I ended up going there, and somebody had linked me up with the brethren from Judgement Yard, which is Sizzla's crew. So I show up one day.
That's almost like a manifested thing, because you loved Sizzla and you've been growing up listening to him, and then now working with him.
Yeah, I never expected it. Literally, I showed up one day, didn't know nobody really, but next thing I know, I'm driving with the entourage. We're taking off to Ocho Rios to do a big video shoot. I wake up on the beach, you know what I mean? Now we're doing shows, and literally, it's been 15 years of working with Sizzla. I've probably gone to Jamaica at least a dozen times, and I love it, and very thankful. Again, there's a lot of powerful work that comes out of Jamaica. When you look at modern music in general, so much is influenced by what's happened in Jamaica, whether from dub to reggae dancehall to everything that you hear. So much comes from this little island with only like 3 million people. It's pretty powerful.
Right, very powerful. Tell me something about Sizzla that only someone close to him would know. Like, is he funny? Like, does he got some jokes?
Yeah,
like, is he?
That's a good question. Yeah, one thing that I don't think folks will know about Sizzla is like he is a bibliophile. That man loves books. He's constantly reading.
Nice.
And so that's one thing that we've done over the years. We'll exchange books and stuff. Like when I come to Jamaica, I'll give him, I'll bring a certain book or whatever, and he'll give me one, back and forth. Just got so much knowledge. You know what I mean? He's just super intelligent. He can be funny. You know what I mean? Definitely. But Jamaicans are just hilarious in general. Yeah. So like it's just comedy when we out there, but it's also doing a lot of work. You know what I mean? Yeah. A lot of community work. I think that's one thing that's really important, and that I've taken as an inspiration as well, is to make sure that you're walking the talk. It's one thing to get on the mic and say this and that, but like, how are you living? Like, are you helping people? Are you actually living the message that you're proclaiming? You know what I mean? So he does that for sure.
Love that. And then I love last year you guys dropped a single, which you guys also dropped on the 122nd birthday of Empress Selassie.
Yes.
Talk about that and just paying homage to Empress Selassie, because you've been so vocal about that, especially being a Rastafarian.
No doubt. And so, the song Prayers Up, with Sizzla, produced by Monk. It's definitely a big tune. We shot the video at Judgement Yard as well. And so that was big. And to be able to put it out on July 23rd was important because a lot of times, one of the things I talk about often, especially when I was in Sri Lanka, is people, when they hear Rasta, they think of like Bob Marley, dreadlocks, and ganja. Those three things, right? Which they might be somewhat correlated, but like really the whole essence of the movement is the emperor and the empress. You know what I mean? It's like the king and the queen who were in Ethiopia as sovereign that stood up, against fascism back then. You know what I mean? And ignited a whole movement. Right. And so I think it's always important to pay homage there. Spiritually myself, just to be real, I've evolved in some ways where it's like, I think culturally I consider myself still Rasta, but spiritually I've evolved, study Islam, I'm a Muslim, you know what I mean? And so, but I'm a universal builder though. Gotcha. So it's like all these different truths, it's all connected, you know what I'm saying? And I honestly feel like it's really important for people to follow their heart, you know what I mean? But it wasn't until I learned about who Haile Selassie was that I actually became a conscious person and no longer was like into trying to like fight or, deal drugs or like violence, any of that stuff,
That's good.
Basically went from like thinking Tupac was the role model, which in many ways he is as a revolutionary, but in terms of the thug life, like thought that was it, right? But when he got assassinated in 96, that just had a huge impact on my life because I was like, damn, like he was the dude, right? And to see him get taken out, we needed something else. And the next thing you know, I meet my brethren, meet the crew, start making music, and then Sizzla and all them music comes out. So it was all like a lot of just consciousness rising around that time.
And I love that because especially right now in such a negative climate of this world, like music is a vibration, it's a frequency. So being able to push these positive messages through music could potentially change the world. So people like you are awesome.
Well, people like you to give the voice to and give us a platform to be able to speak about it as well. Super important, So give thanks for all you do and what you contribute to the culture.
I received that. Thank you so much. So let's talk about your latest project that you dropped in May, 2 months ago. Timbo King presents Jacket Full of Medals. Talk about that.
Yeah, so Timbo King is a longtime Wu-Tang affiliate from the group Royal Fam. And, he's been doing it for a long time, since the 90s. And so I go to New York quite often as well, Brooklyn in particular. And I went out there, what was that, 2021, I believe, and linked up with Timbo King out there. And we just started working together, and just started grinding out songs, getting in the studio in New York, and then he came out to Oakland, and we met up in Denver, Colorado, where the producer Dollar Justice, where he lives, And so we basically, instead of doing a project, a collab album where we're sending tracks back and forth through email, we made sure that like we were organically creating this record, and it felt really good. And it's a follow up to an album that I put out with the same producer, Dawid Justice, who's from me and Mike's original crew, by the way, called Full Metal Jacket, and that was with Tragedy Gaddafi. Gotcha. So it's kind of Jacket Full of Metal is kind of building off of that as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
What was the reason for kind of like the album hiatus? Because I know that you dropped this project obviously in May, but since then, the last album that you dropped was in 2022.
True.
Which was To Serve the People.
That's right.
So what were you doing during those 3 years?
Yeah, a lot of life in, a lot of singles too. That's one thing that I realized, like, I feel like the era I came from, it was really about like, you might drop 1 or 2 singles and then a whole project, right? But nowadays it seems like the way folks consume music so fast, I feel like singles are really important. You know what I mean? So like from 2022 to now, man, I probably dropped over a dozen singles. You know what I mean? So these projects that I'm building, I'm looking at kind of like 2 new albums basically with all this new material. Some singles that people have heard, but also new stuff. But the album with Timbo King, originally we just dropped it in May digitally. But originally, we were pushing it for about a year as physical products only.
Yeah.
And that was kind of our way to, like, push back against, really, the piracy, the highway robbery that's happened with streaming, you know what I mean?
Most
and
definitely.
again, I'm a grassroots artist that used to sell physical products. Like, I used to stand in front of stores with my CDs, have my Walkman out, let people hear it, you know what I mean? And, like, literally sell product, you know what I mean?
Just talking about that with Grouch from Living Legends. Like, how they were... doing all of that as independent artists.
Call it Dirt Hustle.
Yeah.
Shout out to the Legends, man. I used to be on there with the Legends on Telegraph in Berkeley, you know what I mean? In front of Rasputin's Amoeba, freestyling with them and stuff like that as a youngster, man. And anyway, so that era's gone, right?
Yeah.
But what we discovered is there's folks that are still into vinyl, treating that our albums, cassette tapes and CDs as like collector's items. So what we did is we released it physical products only for a year, just to see like, all right, can we break through what's going on?
How did that work?
It worked decent to the point where we sold enough products. People did like pre-sales of the physical products to where we didn't have to use any of our own money to create the products. You know what I mean? Basically, it was funded, you know what I mean, through the pre-sales. And so that was pretty cool. It just really, shout out to all the supporters, man. Anybody that's ever ordered or downloaded anything and put a little dollar behind it, like, it means a lot, because again, we can't do it without that, And back in the days, supporting artists fiscally wasn't even a thought. Now it's like, it seems crazy unless it's a show. But that did show us like, nah, there is folks that are still there to support. So I'm more interested to see how that goes. But we did release it on the digital streams too, because we realized that's how most people access music. So we want to make sure.
But I like that idea though. At least giving it a couple months and trying to push off those physical copies, and then you also get to see who your true supporters are and everything, know. But I think that's a great idea for anyone dropping something. At least try it that way, and then put it on streaming. You can always put it on streaming later, but test out that method to see how much you can actually get.
For sure.
From your true supporters out here.
Yep, so they can check out my Bandcamp page as well. Like every now and again, somebody will drop like $100 on my Bandcamp just to like get my catalog or whatever.
That is a blessing.
It's love.
Yeah, that is awesome. So I hope we don't have to wait another 2 years for another album. But what do you have coming for the rest of 2025?
Yeah, definitely. Like I said, I basically have 2 albums worth of material right now. So just finalizing that up. In August, we'll be dropping a single with Ras Kass called Ancestors. Really excited about that record. Ras Kass, it's great dude. Obviously, goated lyricist, you know what I mean? Like, and I've, was a big fan of his growing up. I always say Nature of the Threat. Maybe my number 1 favorite song of all time.
Oh, wow.
Like, I remember telling Raz, too, when he was in the studio, I was like, yo, man, I literally played that song for my mom because I was 96 when I first was starting to make music. And I was like, look, music can be educational, and Nature of the Threat was certainly that, you know what I mean? So the song Ancestors we have is really dope. So there's that, and then there's, a lot of other singles and getting the albums ready, for sure. Some reggae, some hip-hop, a lot of Wu-Tang collaborations, too. I've been working with the Clan a lot with different Killer Bees and stuff like that. You know, beyond Timbo King obviously, but beyond that too. You know, so new production.
Okay.
In fact, the new single right now is called Buzzsaw,
and
that's produced by Ninth Prince from Killer Army, and it's me and Timbo King. Ninth Prince is RZA's younger brother. So he's getting into the production as well, and it's a dope song. It's kind of buzzing right now, literally. You know what I mean? So I'm just really feeling the energy. Shout out to the Woo, the Final Chambers tour. It was amazing
you want it?
Yeah, for sure. Up north, yeah.
Oh, nice.
Definitely, man. It's powerful, just to see, like, I used to go see them at Club Unity in LA, it was a little dingy underground spot, you know what I'm saying? And so now, literally 25 years later to see them doing NBA arenas, it's like, man, hip hop has come a long way. And our elder statesmen are holding it down. Like,
seriously,
these brothers are 10, 15 years older than me in their 50s, and they are ripping.
No, seriously.
Sold out arenas. Like, come on.
And they continue to do it.
Yeah, like.
This ain't their last stop.
Right? And that's why I was like, final.
No.
We'll see how fun
I know, right? Well, Ross, I'm so thankful that you have made your way down to the LRG headquarters, and tell me about the song that you're going to bless us with for the mic performance.
No doubt,
before we get into that.
Yes, indeed. So I'm going to do Go On, which is my solo record from the Jacket Full of Medals album with me and Timbo. We both have one solo song on the album, the collab album as well. So yeah, I'll be doing Go On from there, just spitting something from some lyrics, you know what I mean? Something to wake the minds up, you know what I mean? But big up to the Indians Funk podcast, man. All y'all stay tuning in because you're learning a lot here, you know what I mean? This is not like, you're almost like a beautiful woman version of Nardwuar, you know what I'm saying? Like, you're doing your research, you know what I'm saying? Which as artists, that means a lot, you know what I mean? When you don't have to like sit and explain all your background with like, professionally know what's going on. So appreciate that.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I received that, and thank you so much, Ross.